Hello, Tom Levecki here, and you're watching a very special Mobsters Inc. All right, very special episode today. You're going to hear a little background noise. I'm doing this on the fly, a last minute thing. I've been in touch with Joseph, who's calling in, and it's concerning a previous guest of mine that had a Mobsters Inc. A new theory. Giovanni's Ring, Giovanni Rocco, the former uh, police cop who was on the FBI task force, who put away some of the Cavalcantes in 15 and 16, or maybe as late as 18. Joseph is from Elizabeth, from the area that my family grew when they emigrated from Italy, and my brothers grew up. I spent a lot of time there pretty much every weekend growing up, although I grew up in the neighboring town. Been there millions of times. Vetted him as a guest, so it's not a random guest. He knows a lot of my cousins, knows a lot of my family. I had never met him before, so this is a raw discussion. So Joseph, welcome to Mobsters Inc. How you doing today?
Good. How are you?
Well, okay, so you reached out a while ago. We talked briefly, but then we reconnected, and you had some concerns about Giovanni's Ring, my life inside the real Sopranos. So why don't you start off possibly with what you believe being out there to be the biggest fallacy? And just listen, full transparency. I had Giovanni on, I think, two or three times. I get along with him. We're in touch. I guess I'm a kind of a friend, but just like a good podcast, you have to listen to both sides. So, Joseph, take it away.
So it's just the podcast he's been on with you, and then he's been on multiple other podcasts. Obviously he's trying to get his book out there. I heard he's possibly trying to get like a deal with Netflix or something to put a show out there. And it's just every podcast he goes on, he tells a different story. The story changes a little bit. And like any good writer, if you want to you want to put a book, or you want to make a movie, you got to make a good book or a good movie. Nobody's going to want to read it. You know what I mean? But a lot of stuff this guy's saying, I mean, his story's changing, and he had the wiretaps, he has the paperwork, and he could go get that and bring it to you guys if he really wanted to put the truth out there and put what really happened out there, because he has it all. Like the meeting that had the whole thing, the first thing with this tinnier, with this that it was at a Christmas party and poking the belly and all that. That first of all, it wasn't tinnier. I'm not gonna say who it was. I was there. It had nothing to do with tinnier. It was somebody totally different, and that guy tinnier wasn't even there. Wasn't even involved with this. And it happened at a dinner dance, and it's just everything he's saying is like it's changing all the time. He said he had a meeting with Lou at his house where the first time he had to interview you, he had the meeting at Lou's and he was looking around for Charlie, and then he seen Charlie come, and then Lou tucked his tail between his legs and he told Lou he was going to tax him. Then he went on somebody else's podcast, and all of a sudden there's people coming out of the backyard, Lou's friends coming out of the backyard, and he got scared, he got nervous, he didn't know what to do. None of that happened.
Hold on, hold on. I want to kind of unpack this a little bit because it's getting layered. I believe I challenged him. If not, I should have. In terms of the alleged tinnier incident, I've been to the Rivera Club. I have relatives that married Rivera, people from Rivera. Good people, great social club, clean social club. So it's not a mob social club, guys. I don't want you guys to think that. But nevertheless, he did allege that he kind of poked and kind of roasted an older tenured guy alleged to be a mobster. But I just that one I found a little bit of a stretch. So I think you're calling here good faith that we can kind of say, hey, that was probably somebody else. If you don't mind me asking, you're not going to say names, but was it somebody in that life or was it a civilian as far as you knew?
No, it wasn't a sibling. It was somebody in their life, definitely.
Got it. But we're not going to disclose who. Okay. Then the meeting with Louis I found interesting as well. Deep dive that a little bit because he said on one end, Charlie Stango showed up, who's in the book, and then on the other end, some guys were coming out, a group of guys that he was in field for his life. What do you think in your mind the truth may be?
So at this point in his story, at this point in what happened, it already had been said that he was an undercover. It had already been said that he was possibly a cop. There was rumors that he was possibly a cop or possibly undercover because they already had followed them to the FBI building. It was already stuff had already happened. So when he came there, when Charlie came there, Charlie brought him, and they were talking. Him and Lou were talking, and Lou had told him straight to his face, "Listen, when you come for me, make sure you got your warrant. Make sure you got your warrant the right. Make sure it says that I bought cigarettes from you, and that's all I did. Make sure your paperwork comes right when you come arrest me, and that's it." There was no him. I'm gonna tax you. I'm gonna do this. No him bucking his shit. That never happened. None of that ever happened. Charlie was there. Charlie was on the phone pretending he wasn't. He didn't want to get involved because he would never. He would never go to Lou and get involved anyway. He was every time they wanted. He was trying to call Charlie over. Charlie like, oh hold on, I'm on a call. I'm on a. So that never happened.
And so people could understand you're referring to Lou the dog, who was obviously a key character in that story in the book, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, Charlie Stango did do time. I believe he's out for, I guess, conspiracy to kill Lou.
And now he's
Attempted murder.
Attempted murder. Sorry, attempted murder. And I don't know if I buy the part that he was going to give money to bikers to do this. We can say what we want about Charlie. I believe if this stuff is true, the guy had resources. The guy was, essentially alleged Cosa Nostra. They generally don't outsource to bikers. If they do, they're not going to pay them, right? Or at least as far as I know. What is your thought, being kind of a little closer to that fire? Did you think there really was a conspiracy, or if not, give me kind of unpack that a little bit, Joseph. Oh,
He paid the agent. He actually paid the agent to do.
Okay, so
Yeah.
what it was okay. Got
So,
it.
but see the whole thing with Charlie, the whole back end with Charlie. I grew up in Peterstown my whole life.
yeah, I know who you are.
Okay.
I gotta play dumb.
So Charlie was the first time when Charlie went to jail. The first time when they went to go do the hit at the whatever. Charlie's gun jammed and he shot his own driver. That's what he went to jail for. Okay.
Yes.
He went to jail again, getting caught on wiretaps, and he went to jail for the third time again for attempted murder.
Yeah.
The guy did 8 years each time. That doesn't seem like a lot of time for attempted murder, especially on your third charge. So I mean, I don't know, but
Well, all right, hold on, gotta be careful here. So you're alluding something, I'm assuming.
Correct.
no, I'm just alluding that the guy went to jail 3 times, 8 years on 3 separate murder charges, attempted murder charges. That's all I'm saying. He went 3 different times attempted murder, and he's out again, and it is what it is.
Interesting.
But as far as my whole everything when I was around with this Giovanni guy, he wasn't. He wasn't this tough guy, that he was. And Charlie, in the book is and in the New York Post that Charlie was a capo and Charlie was running things, and it was never that's never the case.
Really?
Yeah. So I mean, this guy portrayed everybody to be more than they were in order to get a book sold, and now he's trying to portray everything in even a different light to try to possibly get a movie deal out of this, or like a deal with Netflix. So he's trying to he's trying to make this sound more like a Sopranos movie than in real life really what happened. You know what I mean?
Okay, so okay, so you're saying, and like I said, you're coming here in good faith, that Charlie's position in the book, not gonna say real life, but in the book, may have been overstated for sens- centralizing or sensationalizing, sorry, his position to sell more books. Sorry, it's been a long day, guys. Okay, now, um, so that part I get, but Charlie did pay um, uh, the money to do it. But in the book, I'm just going by the book, and I don't, we're not naming names, and we're not going to step over any lines. But in the book, it gives the appearance that Charlie was acting on his own, because if that's the case, we know the feds would hem up the administration. You know what I'm saying? Versus they didn't. So I believe, according to the book, that he was acting kind of on his own. You want to maybe share? These are just your thoughts, not your knowledge, if that makes sense. Go ahead.
Okay, so that I don't know. I can't speak on that because obviously I can't. But in the book, in the interviews, he's making Charlie out to be that he was the guy. You know what I mean? He was the capo. He was the guy in charge. He went to go plant a flag in Las Vegas. He went out there to move with his girlfriend because he had nowhere else to go.
Got
Okay.
it.
So with that, that all being said, Charlie growing up was just a guy that he was a nobody, man. He was a guy that hung out down the Berg, and he went went to the parties, and he drove around, and he hung out with his nephew and his nephew's friends, and making them believe he was a tough guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It in the book, in the paperwork, whatever, the whole way they got caught was his son made a phone call to his father and saying,
That was
That-
Jimmy, correct?
"No, Jimmy's the nephew. His son Anthony, the other
Okay,
one."
And my bad.
He made a phone call to his dad and said, fuck Louis. I want to, let me be the one to do him. I'm going to go when he's walking up the stairs and shoot him in his fucking back. Right? As soon as he said that, Charlie said, "You motherfucker, you fucking just did it to me." And then he fucking tells him to call him on the other phone. Little did he know that the other phone was given to him by the fucking undercover, and that phone was tapped too. Then he tells him, "Oh, call me back, say you love Lou, all this stuff." And this is all transcript. This is all stuff that's out there. This is all stuff public knowledge. Anybody can see it. You know?
yeah.
And the fact that this guy keeps trying to change the story, all he has to do if he really wants to get the truth out there is bring the transcript, bring the tap, bring the wire. You're saying all this is true.
So you want to set a few things straight. Number one is you think Giovanni's undercover character, Giovanni Rocco, overplayed his hand, didn't have as much access, didn't have as much going on. Number two, you think Charlie was way overstated. And number three, and again, I don't want to say too much because especially if he's active and out there, just as a civilian, not as a person not in that life. But I think Louis Dogs kind of got a bad rap during the book. He made him sound kind of schlubby and kind of, I don't know, disorganized, if that makes sense. I don't know. Can you share any thought? Just any thought on that if you can?
I know. Like I said, I know all of them. I know everybody. Lou is a good guy. Lou is the kind of guy that I don't care if it's one guy or 20 guys. He's not getting punked by nobody. So there wasn't going to have some new guy come into the neighborhood after a year or two. He's going to start punking him. It's just not the kind of person he is. He does not step down from nobody. He doesn't take shit from nobody. It's the kind of guy he is. So that, as far as that, even if I was to hear that and wasn't there, I would call bullshit on it, And in this guy, this guy praises Charlie so much, Oh, Charlie with these blue eyes, and Charlie was a killer, and Charlie killed people by accident, and if I wish, I wanted to call Charlie and tell him that he was going to get arrested and to turn himself in, this guy had Charlie up on his pedestal, and for whatever reason, I don't know what it is that he got with Charlie, but he's it's almost like he's in love with the character of Charlie that he made up in his own head.
Got it. Now, one thing I asked him that I'm gonna only bring him up only because he passed, and he was my mother's cousin. He was married to my mother's cousin. So Jojo, who passed, rest in peace. I knew his son. His mother was married to my mother. She was Valadez. Essentially, he said Charlie had like a shrine dedicated to Jojo, a big photo, the big cigars he used to smoke, and that kind of stuff. You kind of buy that as well. You kind of call BS on that too.
So I don't think he had a big shrine of him. No, I really don't think that. I mean, Charlie was around during that time, and he was under, kind of like around JoJo, but he wasn't, like JoJo had his own crew. JoJo was one of a kind. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
JoJo's old school. JoJo's old school, man. So, but yeah, as far as like him having a shrine and all that stuff, I don't buy none of that with that. No.
All right, because I know we're limited on what we could talk about for many reasons. And I don't want to keep it too long. Just maybe if you could share some other points with the book that you disagree with, and or maybe something that was left out.
Just the only thing I could really say with the book is that a lot of it is bullshit. Like a lot of it is just like there's some of it that obviously happened because obviously there was a case. You know what I mean? But it's a lot of taking a little of what happened and turning it into like something big. You know what I mean? Like it's a lot of, hey, we had a meeting for 10 minutes, and all of a sudden that meeting turned into a 45-minute meeting, and then everybody in there fought, and then everybody left, everybody went home. There was gunshots. Like it just makes it like like it's just turning a little bit into a story.
You also said when we spoke the first time it was brief, but the first time you also mentioned that he may have overcharacterized his relationship with the Jersey-based Gambino soldier as well. Correct? I think it was an auto shop incident, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh yeah, hold on. Let me get you back here. Hold on. I just
Yeah.
paused
Of course,
there.
take your time. Take your
Yeah.
time.
So yeah, no, good thing you brought that up. So yeah, there was an incident where they went into the auto shop and the guy had said um, that he mistaked him that Lou mistaked him for somebody else that he thought it was, and him and that guy were friends. They were he would never mistake him for that guy if him and that guy were good friends. You know, so that whole thing was a lie. And a lot of names in a book, are not the same. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
obviously, for whatever reason, but he would never mistake him for the guy who they said he mistaked him for, because like that again, I guess was to try to um like make Lou look like less of what he was. You know what I mean? Make him look like more of like somebody like. So he kept trying to like shit on Lou basically, and that never happened. Lou would never mistake this guy for somebody that he knows personally that he's good friends with. Well, like why he would look and say, "Oh, I think that's that guy." That would never happen. If he thought it was that guy, he would have, "Hey, what's up?" Like he wouldn't have just thought it was somebody and poked his head around the corner. That's not the kind of person. Lou's not timid. Lou's not a guy that's gonna put his head in a shell.
Well, let me ask you though. I mean, attempted murder, Vegas, Jersey mob, all that kind of stuff. It's very sexy to a lot of people. You don't really need to exaggerate. If again you're coming here in good faith and assuming you're correct, why do you think Giovanni even exaggerated what didn't need to be exaggerated in your opinion?
Oh, because I mean, the book's not going to make money if the story's straight. You know what I mean? They're gonna have to put a if it was just what it was, he exaggerated a lot of points in it to make it more of an exciting story. You know what I mean? Because the story was what it was. It was he came through. He got in the beginning through like Jimmy and doing a bullshit. You know what I mean? And then he was here. He made it. He started with the shit that he was selling, the swag or whatever he calls it. And then and then that happened with Charlie where he gave him money for something, and then it ended. So I mean, if you put that in a book, it's basically it's maybe 10-page book. You know what I mean? But of course, you got to put a storyline to it. You got to be some exciting parts, or nobody's going to read the book. You know what I mean?
About that. Had a little technical difficulty. Okay, so my question to you, Joseph, is what compelled you to come forward, which takes a lot of guts to do, right? And then number two, why my show? He's been on such bigger shows. If you can kind of unpack that a little bit.
Only because the story's changing more and more now. Every show he goes on, the story's changing a little bit more, and he's pushing the narrative a lot more towards like it being like he's like I said, I've heard he's trying to make a show and try to get signed. So it's just what's being said is not the truth, and it's not being liked too much what he's being said. And the reason we came to you is because obviously you're family from the neighborhood. We knew who you were, so we thought getting it out through you. You've had him on a few times. Would be
All right, that'd be interesting. All right, Joseph, I'll give you the final words. It's a quick one. Very one of a kind. Sometimes we talk to the streets. Sometimes the streets talk back. Again, like I know we're limited on what we could talk about by design, which and this is our only conversation, everybody. So no need to reach out and say Joseph said this, this, and this. We talked once briefly for 2 minutes. He reached out again. We kind of checked each other out, so we know a lot of the same people. And then we talked again briefly today. And this is by design too. We wanted to keep everything transparent, everything out there. So I'll give you the final words before we wrap up, Joseph.
thank you for having me on. Thank you for letting me get this out there. And I hope in the future this comes out to light that a lot of what he said wasn't true. And if it happens later on that he wants to go on and we talk, then it is what it is. But we'll figure that out.
Let me ask you this: if respectfully as you can, if you were to say something to him, Giovanni will probably catch wind of this. What would you say?
Just tell the truth. Stop bullshit. Tell what really happened, and take it from there. Be honest. That's it.
All right, fair enough. Joseph, thanks so much for coming on Mobsters Inc.